All right, welcome everyone to our webinar today. It's really lovely to see you all with us and joining us. And we really appreciate you setting aside this time. Before we start, we just want to let you know that this session is going to be recorded. And if anyone would like a copy, please let us know at the end of the session and we'll send it through. We'll also be sharing a really useful tool at the end of this session. So we really encourage you to stay because it's something that will really help you successfully transition to an outsourced model. Today's webinar is the third in our series, Becoming a Financial Powerhouse. And this episode, we're going to be talking about how to confidently charge the right fees for your advice. As some of you may know, our names are Tanya and Tamara, and we're the founders of the TNT Group, a leading Australian outsourcing and coaching business. The focus of TNT is to help practices achieve higher levels of performance by building great teams that deliver exceptional results. We've been working in the financial advice industry for many years across many roles, including advisor, practice management, and practice owners. As you'll probably notice, particularly throughout the session, we're really passionate about what we do and we love seeing practices achieve great results by working with us. So today, we wanted to share some more of our expertise with you and show you how to benefit from some great solutions that deliver outstanding results within your business. Now, as the webinar unfolds, there is just a bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, please raise your hand electronically or type in the chat box and we'll endeavour to answer them as we go. We want it to be an interactive session, so we really encourage your feedback. While we're presenting, we do ask that your mics be muted, and we will make sure that the Q&A section at the end will give you more opportunity to have questions and answers discussed there. So there's going to be three key takeaways from this episode. Firstly, how to confidently deliver your advice fees without excuses. 2, how to charge the right fees for your advice. And 3, how to easily move to a profitable outsourced model. So since the Royal Commission, the trustworthiness of our profession has been called into question, and this has really rocked the confidence of many advisors and created some doubts around what good advice is really worth. By our industry being under the spotlight in this way, it's impacted our confidence to continue to charge appropriately and keep fees in line with the increasing cost of advice, and I'm sure you'll agree with that. However, the hesitation to charge appropriately sits squarely on the advisor's side of the table, not the client's. Your clients value your expertise and the trust you've built. This is worth more to them than you realise. So how do we confidently deliver fees? We'll step into a client meeting scenario. It's that time of the meeting again. You've spoken through a proposed strategy for your client and you've sold them on the benefits. Now for the fee conversation. How do you feel? Is it a bit like this? Or is it like this?
So how do you confidently deliver advice fees without excuses? Well, here are a few examples of how we too often hear advisors delivering their fees. I hate to have to go through the fees with you, but I know the fees look high, but unfortunately, we need to charge a fee of, I'm sorry, we have to charge this, but, and my personal favourite, the fee is $5,000. Is that okay? Any of these negative lead-ins will create a red flag for your client, and it will build doubt in their minds as to the true value of your advice and cause them to question your fee. If you're not confident in your value, why should they be? So here's how to nail the fee conversation. First, deliver your fees confidently and without excuses. Then move on. So no more apologies when we're delivering fees. Pick the right timing. Deliver the fees just after you've shown the value of your strategy to your clients. Feel free to reinstate the value by reminding your client of the key benefits or saving of the strategy. You could consider breaking up your initial fees into an advice fee and an implementation fee, and explain to your clients what each of these fees cover. And it's so important that you educate your clients. Make sure to present the fee ranges from your FSG really early on in the process. They should have an expectation that they will pay for your expert advice from day one. And if you do all of these things correctly, you shouldn't be spending any time convincing your clients of the value of advice. So how should it sound? Well, here's a really well-delivered fee conversation. So, Mr. Smith, I'm sure you can agree that this strategy is going to put you in a much better position. Our next step is to prepare a statement of advice. The fee for this is $3,800. We also charge an implementation fee of $1,200 to cover the cost of our team preparing the applications and implementing the advice for you. We've discussed the importance of an annual review and ongoing service. The fee for this ongoing service is $4,000 a year. Now, if you deliver your fees like this, your clients won't question the value of your advice, and you can comfortably raise any of your advice fees that are currently sitting too low. Which brings us to our second point, how to charge the right fees for your advice. In our dealings with practices, we're asked almost on a daily basis, am I charging enough? And what we see is that advice fees on average are far too low. And there are two key reasons for this.
So first, an advisor's value and expertise is often underestimated. Think of the years of education, ongoing training and experience you have as an advisor. A simple strategy in the eyes of the advisor is not simple in the eyes of the client. You don't see other professions apologising for their fees, so why do we? This brings us to our second reason. A close client relationship shouldn't work against your ability to charge appropriately. And what we mean by this is often an intimate relationship with our clients can make the fee conversation a little bit uncomfortable or a bit awkward. But remember, your clients value and trust you more than you realise. It's one of the most trusted relationships that they'll have in their lifetime. Of course, we know, family, health, they come first. But your clients' money and assets are the most important thing to them. So as advisors, we need to be careful that we don't see the intimacy, the closeness of this relationship as a reason to discount fees. So what is good advice worth? Our first two episodes have really reinforced the rising cost of advice. And if you're not yet convinced that you need to adjust your fees for this, then please revisit TNT's earlier webinars. I'll guarantee that all of you can attest to the fact that the costs of producing advice have risen in the last few years. Why haven't our fees risen accordingly? We still see, believe this or not, advisors charging $1,800 for advice. You have to shift your mindset here. Just because this is what you've done in the past or what the client might be used to doesn't mean that it will work anymore. So what should you now be charging?
So here we have the fees that you should be charging for your initial advice and ongoing service. Simple advice as an upfront fee needs to start at $3,500. And if you're charging less than this for any reason, you'll be losing money. Moderate advice then, as an initial fee, is $5,000, and complex advice needs to be $7,000 and above. Similarly, our ongoing service fees, often for simple strategy clients, it's not suitable or they don't need to be on an ongoing package. So we'd start with a moderate strategy of $4,000 a year, and then complex clients needing perhaps 2 or more reviews a year, 6,000 plus. Now, I don't believe any of you will be surprised by these numbers, but I also know that most of you are regularly charging less than this. And that might be because you're working up to charging these fees over the next year or two. You could be increasing your fees, and we often hear that. Or some advisors like to discount their upfront fee if the client is paying an ongoing fee. But neither of these reasons are valid. This table shows the advice fees that you need to be charging today. In 2 years' time, they'll be higher again. We can't stress this enough. It really takes a shift in mindset to charge the right fees without excuses. We hope that by the end of this presentation, your mindset shifts also, and you reset your perception of the value of your advice. And that means resetting your fee offering.
We've now explained where your fees should sit for initial and ongoing advice. Now, some of you may already be charging the right initial fees, but your ongoings are too low, or it could be vice versa. But it's critical to get both of these revenues correct. Now, I'm sure if I asked, any of you today, you could tell me your practice's total upfront revenue or ongoing revenue for the year or what you expect. But do you know your costs that are attributable to your initial advice versus your ongoing service? Two very distinct areas of your business that generate two very different areas of work and associated costs. However, most practices don't segregate the costs in this way. You must view and treat your initial and ongoing revenue and associated activity as two different departments of your business. Each must be profitable in its own right. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, it actually blurs the true value of your client base. And importantly, and this is very important, it can also mask the unprofitable area of your business. You'll have noticed in our previous fee table, we didn't have an ongoing service package for simple strategy clients. And that's because, these clients don't usually need regular reviews or service at this level. If you have many ongoing clients paying you less than $4,000 per annum, you really need to pay attention to the next table. We know the cost of maintaining the client to be approximately $2,000 per year per client. And this is backed up by research from Investment Trends. That's a basic cost that needs to be covered before we even do 1 minute of new work on that client. For each client, each year, an advisor would spend a minimum of 4 hours across a review meeting and pre and post meeting time. So now we get a very clear picture of what an ongoing fee is, and anything under $3,600 will be losing you money.
So now you're confidently charging the right fees. What's next? Well, once this is achieved, you'll be operating in a way that makes the transition to an outsource model even more vital and much easier. We've spoken at length before about the benefits of an outsourced model, namely access to a highly skilled team, unlimited capacity for advisor support without fixed salary costs, no HR issues, and immediate value for every dollar spent. This is the only way for advice practices to achieve increasing profit and growth. Now, many practices we speak to really want to adopt this model, but they don't know how to take the first steps because they're worried that it's going to increase their costs. So if this is what you're also concerned about, we'll now show you how to do it. You're on mute, Tan.
Isn't that the saying of the year? All right. Okay, so we've often heard advisors reason that they'll do the majority of the advice themselves just to save a bit of money. As already mentioned, we have run previous webinars on what should be done by advisors and what should not be done. So if you're still reasoning that, cost is still an issue to outsource, let's look at how we can transition to a more profitable model like others are doing in a stepped approach. Now, before we roll out the table, we'll just give you a little framework to the numbers that'll be shown. In this table, we're going to base our numbers, as noted at the bottom, on 100 SOAs per annum. The advisor's charging an upfront fee of $5,000 per advice and a paraplanning fee of $580. We've got two advisors on the table, one that's unassisted. He outsources paraplanning, but does everything else himself because he's trying to save money. The other column represents an advisor with optimal outsource support. His support includes his strategy and research, the paraplanning, the preparation of application documents, and lodgement. So let's discuss an advisor doing it all himself, apart from the paraplanning on the first line. On our first webinar in this series, we showed the average time taken to produce moderate advice for an advisor from start to finish, and everyone agreed on that webinar that it was, you know, a rather conservative number of 17 hours, but it was about the right figure. If we then know that the hourly rate for an advisor is $400, which is the industry minimum, we therefore get a total cost of a moderate piece of advice of $6,800 per plan. We then include paraplanning of $580, and you know the cost is now $7,380. So let's talk that through. The advisor doing it all himself across 100 plans, it's $680,000. We add in the paraplanning and now it's $738,000. He's charging $5,000 per plan, so there's $500,000. The deficit, or the profit at this level, is a deficit of $238,000. Now again, referring back to our previous webinar, the cost of an advisor using an outsourced model is $2,795 per plan. So this is including 5 hours of the advisor's time and the rest is outsourced. So let's look at an advisor now handing over 25% of his work to an outsourced model. So 75% of the time the advisor's still doing it all himself and it's costing him $510,000. 25% he's getting a bit of support from outsourcing, $69,875 it's cost him. But the total cost of doing those plans now, including the paraplanning, has dropped to $637,000, $875. His upfronts are still the same amount of plans, but the deficit now is $137,875. Now we're going to look at handing over 50% of his work. So 50% is still doing it all himself, 50% getting the support of an outsource at the cost of $139,750. Total cost of producing those plans now is $537,750. He's still charging the same. The deficit is negative $37,750. Let's look at 75% being handed over or having the assistance. Now the advisor on his own doing it himself is down to $170,000. Doing it with assistance, it's $209,625, and the total cost is $437,625. Upfront fees are the same, but yay, we are now in the black, $62,375. So let's roll out 100% supported with optimal efficiencies. We're looking at the advisor with optimal support, the total cost there, $279,500. $337,500 is the full cost with the paraplanning. The upfront fees are the same. So now we see $162,500 from a negative $238,000 on that beginning line when he thought, I'll do it myself, I'm going to save some money. We now see him making real money at $162,500. That's a turnaround of $400,000. These figures show powerful proof that by transitioning to an outsourced model, it can have a powerful impact on the profit margin. In addition to that, there's also a powerful reduction in time for the planner. Unassisted, he's working around 17 hours on each piece of advice. By moving to the outsourced model, his time reduces to an average of 5 hours on each piece of advice. So that's less than a third. As advisors or owners of your own business, can you imagine the impact of that extra time to see more clients? The only thing standing in your way to seeing results like this is you.
And to be sure, outsourcing in no way reduces the quality of your advice. As Tan's pointed out, the key difference between our unassisted advisor and the advisor in this scenario in the outsourced model is that the outsourced advisor isn't spending his time doing the strategy and research or any prep or implementation work. They're the key things that it's so important for practices to be outsourcing now. So the quality of the advice doesn't change. In fact, advisors using this method are writing much better advice and more of it. The key is to outsource to the right external, ones who are experts in their field that operate as an extension to your team. Real people who can increase the value of your service and reputation. So we're going to provide you all with an expanded version of this table so you can enter in your own annual SOA figures and your own advice fees and really track the benefits of moving your business to an outsourced model in a way that you're at a rate that you're comfortable with. This table is a really incredible tool, and we hope that you find it really useful too. So our 3 key messages from today are: deliver your fees confidently, at the right time and without excuses. Value your expertise. Increase your fees where needed and break your practice into the 2 departments: upfront advice fees, upfront advice costs, and ongoing fees and ongoing service costs. Lastly, transition to an outsourced model in a stepped approach. We now hope you see a clear path toward moving to a really smart outsourced model that will have an incredible impact on your business's profitability. And we also hope that next time you're speaking fees with a client, you don't feel like this, but perhaps a bit more like this one. So we want to thank you all for putting the time aside to join us on the webinar today. We hope this session will change the future of your business. We'd love to open up now for any questions or comments that anybody might have. Thank you.